comienzo el podcast más real de todas las plataformas. Listen the Podcast. La verdad os hará libre. Política, cultura y noticias puertorriqueñas, internacionales y algo más. Listen the Podcast. Óyeme, saluditos a la ganga que están todos en el chat. Los estoy leyendo, los estoy viendo. Los estoy leyendo y los estoy viendo. Pero tengo que todavía dominar esto porque los mensajes que escribieron ya no los puedo poner en la pantalla. Estoy automatizando las cosas. Pero yo los puedo saludar porque yo los estoy viendo. David, dímelo David, activo. Hey, Amelia, muy buenas noches, saluditos. Ya tú sabes, parte de la comunidad Amelia. Hey, sí, Trump 2024, papito, pa' encima, pa' encima. Mira, dímelo Mili, saluditos a todos los presentes y a Hebreo también, amén. Mira, David, arranca que nos fuimos. Arranca que nos fuimos. Ok. Estamos utilizando tecnología, inteligencia artificial y conseguimos un programa que pone los subtítulos on the fly. Esto salió fresco, esto salió hace una hora atrás y no tiene subtítulos en ninguna parte. Esta es la primera vez que esto tiene subtítulos en español y es aquí en Listen the Podcast. Déjame seguir aquí. ¿Quién faltó? M. Cruz, saludito. Aquí de Insomnio. Pues, pero estamos. Saluditos Ruth Vázquez. Félix García, saludos. Y Vicente Ayala. Bueno, mi gente, ahora sí, esto es Donald Trump hablando desde Virginia. Recuerda que el pana va a ganar. Estamos en camino a Trump. Que gane las elecciones. Vamos a darle esto. Producción, dale play.
We love Virginia. How much? We're going to make a big play for Virginia. You know that.
Hey, saluditos Miguel y Julio Sánchez, saludos.
It's over. The election would be over, so let's do it, right? Let's do it. We're going to be here. We've always done well here. But I'm with thousands of proud, hard-working American patriots. That's what you are. That's what we all are. That's what we all are. Over the past week, it's been sort of in a rocket. We've been launching like a rocket to the Republican nomination. We just got numbers today that were unbelievable, but we won Iowa in a record, New Hampshire in a record. In Iowa, we got the highest vote count ever ×2. In New Hampshire, we had the most votes in the history of the New Hampshire primary. That covers a lot of territory. For both parties, by the way. Got a lot of people up there, like the Kennedy
Mira, dímelo, Tino Racing, saluditos, saludos, Tino.
Nevada, we won in a record, you saw that, 97%. The Virgin Islands, we took that one in a record. We got a record so far. Let's keep it going. And 1 week ago, we won South Carolina, beating the ex-governor by an unprecedented number and getting double the number of votes of any previous candidate in history. South Carolina. We love South Carolina. And as you know, today we have two contests, Missouri and the remainder of Michigan. You know, we won Michigan by a lot, but that was about a third. But today it looks like we're winning close to 100% of both Missouri and Michigan, adding on to the last two total. Last Tuesday, Michigan total was a record, but now we're adding on the rest. So we won almost, I guess, close to 90% of the vote. What's going on here? This is getting to be crazy, right? This is getting to be pretty wild, and it's a great honor, I'll tell you, because we have to let them know we're coming for them. We're coming on November 5th, Joe's Crooked Sleepy Joe. Crooked Sleepy. I like that. I like that. Crooked Sleepy. Maybe we'll call them both. You know, I took the name off Hillary Crooked. I wanted to use it for Joe because I thought it was very accurate. But I got rid of Sleepy, and Sleepy was good. But how about Crooked Sleepy Joe, you know?
Crooked Sleepy Joe.
You could do a double. That's what you got. Next up, as you know, Super Tuesday.
Mi gente, ese es el sonido de la victoria. Escucha, escucha.
And anything that means Tuesday coming up, March 5th, just 3 days from now, and it's time for the Commonwealth of Virginia to finally have your say and get it done the way you want to have it done. Get out and vote.
Escucharon lo que dijo el Commonwealth de Virginia. Virginia es igual que Puerto Rico.
Your vote. We want you to get out though and vote in big margins, and we want to send that little freight train going along because it's going to be the big day, the biggest day in the history of our country is November 5th. That's the biggest day because our country is being destroyed by an incompetent president, a corrupt president, the worst president we've ever had. The worst we've ever had. And we want to send a signal. We need each and every one of you to get every patriot that you know and turn them out to vote. You have to do this on Tuesday and just turn them out and vote in big numbers. It's going to send a signal. You know, the New York Times came out with a poll. They just announced it. Devastating for the New York Times. They don't like doing that. Well, I give them credit. I gave them credit. You know, the Washington Post came out with a big poll a couple of months ago, and they wanted to know, was there a mistake? Oh, please let there be. There's no mistake. New York Times has us way up over crooked Joe Biden, way, way, way up. And one of the greatest things was really, one aspect of the poll was where they say, really great excitement and enthusiasm for the candidate, almost 50%. That's a tremendous number. The rest are, oh, he's good. But I mean, super enthusiasm, that's a number that people just don't get. So I'm honored, and we're all honored because we're all in this mess together. Let's face it, this country is a mess. We got 15, 16 million people came in, and they came in from prisons and jails. They came in from mental institutions and insane asylums. They're terrorists, they're drug dealers. We are really going to be a very different country. We have to have it stopped. With your help, we will win big on Super Tuesday, and this November, Virginia is going to tell crooked Joe Biden, you're fired, you're fired, get out of here, get out of here, get out of the White House. Should have never been in the White House. He should have never been in the White House. We wouldn't be in this mess, but he should have never been there, and everybody in this room knows it. They go after the guys that complain about the election, not the guys that rigged the election. Isn't that interesting, right? Among my very first actions upon taking office will be quite simply to seal the border and stop the invasion of our country.
Definitivamente ese pana va a ganar. Eso se siente en el ambiente. Se siente en el ambiente.
2 days ago, I was with Governor Greg Abbott at the Texas border. He's doing a really good job to witness the total devastation that crooked Joe Biden and his stupid policy of open borders. Who would do this to? Who would do this? No country would do this. What it's done to us as a country, our border is an open and gushing wound, pouring drugs, gangs, terrorists, and millions of illegal aliens into our country. Many, many people that are not supposed to be in our country. So unfair to people that are online for 10 years. They study, they work, they do everything right, and then they see millions of people come in with no recourse, no nothing, no retribution. Yet Crooked Joe is fighting the state of Texas to stop them from defending our border. They're doing a job for the country. They're actually cutting the wire fences open to let thousands of migrants come pouring in, the migrants that they have no idea, they're from parts unknown. You know what that means, parts unknown? They're coming from the Congo. They come from all parts of Africa, Asia, the Middle East. Last night they had 4 from the Congo. Where in the Congo do you live? I wonder what beautiful place do you live.
No, óyeme, lo que dice Trump es que también está viniendo gente de otros lados, no solamente latinos, ahí están viniendo afganos. Pueden venir yihadistas, no sabemos. Es la realidad. Hay que cerrar la frontera ya.
It's Asia. It's the Middle East. It's people that were bombing. Here goes Biden again with the bombing. You don't have to bomb.
Exacto, los
You don't
terroristas.
have to bomb. We can get it done with a phone call. We had no, let me tell you. A properly placed phone call can work miracles, can it? We did plenty of them. We didn't have to bomb, and we didn't have to spend the money and the killing and everything else, and the world hates us to a level that you've never seen. Remember, I kept you out of wars, except I did defeat ISIS very strongly. We defeated ISIS. We took them. Al-Baghdadi, Soleimani. We did a number that nobody's ever seen. It was going to take 4 to 5 years, they said, in Washington. It would take 4 to 5 years. I did it in 4 weeks. We knocked them out. General Raisin came, right? Raisin came.
Hey, saludito, William Irizarry. Buenas noches.
And that was 100% of the ISIS caliphate. The ISIS caliphate, they said, was going to take years to do. We did it in 4 weeks. When I'm president, instead of trying to send Texas a restraining order, I will send them reinforcements.
Qué duro. En vez de irse en contra de Texas, le van a enviar refuerzo.
The most secure border in the United States history. We had the best border in the history of our country. We ended catch and release, except when we did catch and release into Mexico. We had catch and release into Mexico. Used to be we'd catch a criminal and release him into our country. We caught criminals, we released them into Mexico. That was much better. We built 571 miles of border wall and got Mexico to send us 28,000 soldiers.
A mí me encanta cuando él dice, no, mejor los cogemos y se los tiramos para México atrás.
You think that was easy? I said to the president, we need you to give us free of charge 28,000 soldiers. No, Donald, I will not do that. I said, no, you have to do it. He's a great guy, by the way, but he's a tough negotiator. And I said, no, you have to do it. No, we would not do. Why would we do such a thing? He's right, actually, But I said, look, if you don't do it, we're going to put a 25% tariff on every car that you make, send in, and every product that you make. And then they said, Donald, it would be a great honor to do it. Mr. President, it would be a great honor to supply you with 28,000 soldiers.
Dímelo, Radamés,
I can think of nothing I'd rather do, they said. Now we had 28,000 Mexicans.
Ustedes vieron lo que él dijo. Él le dijo a México, mira, espérate, déjame cambiar acá. México, tienes dos opciones. Dame soldados. 28,000 soldados para que protejan la de esto. Y México dijo, no, yo no voy a hacer eso. Y él dijo, no vas a hacer eso, pues te voy a meter un tax del 25% a todo lo que exporte a Estados Unidos. Ah, diablo, ¿dónde quieren los soldados? Dijo el presidente mexicano. Ahí vamos.
Soldiers stopping people from coming in. And once we did that, all of a sudden, it all stopped. The caravans stopped. It all stopped because now they're doing a lot of work for us. And this guy Biden ended that. He ended remain in Mexico. How about remain in Mexico? Is that good? You think that was easy to get? Check out Tijuana. This was a crowded place. That was probably the fastest growing city in history. It was, what a mess that was. But they weren't in the United States. We had remain in Mexico, safe third agreements, asylum bans, Title 42. And a thing called rapid removal. Do you know what that means? You don't have to be too smart to know. Rapid removal. They come in, we rapidly remove them from our country. If you broke in, we caught you, we detained you, and we deported you very quickly. It was like clockwork. We had the greatest border. We had the safest border in history. Let there be no doubt, this is Joe Biden's invasion. This is Joe Biden's destruction of our country. If you take the 10 worst presidents in history and add them up and put them together, nobody has done the destruction to our country as this incompetent president that we have right now.
Mira, saludos Rambo, ¿cómo estamos? Buenas noches.
And you know this, you've heard enough of the talk. I have great respect for the office of the president, for the presidency, tremendous respect. When I won, I went to the White House and I stood with our great First Lady opposite the Lincoln bedroom, and I said, do you believe this? Can you believe this? Because it takes a while. It's like a surreal experience, but it was so incredible. I have great respect for that whole thing. That's so beautiful. But then he did something that was undoable. Every critic, even the really bad radical left press that are back there.
Óyeme, Trump no pierde el paso para tirarle a la prensa. Le tira así en
The radical left press said they'll never indict him on this stuff. He can't be indicted. They said it'll never happen. It'll never happen. They have no legal grounds, but they did. 1 time, 2 times, 3 times. I got 4 indictments. More than Al Capone, the most vicious mobster in history. The great Alphonse Capone. I use him as an example because he's like the ultimate.
Mira lo que acaba de decir, que él tuvo más indictment que Al Capone. Che, que ese presidente hay que darle un aplauso y una medalla, en verdad. Es tan sincero y lo que te lo dice, mira, esto es lo que hay, ¿qué pasó? Vamos para encima.
If he took you to dinner and you smiled at him the wrong way, he would kill you. By the time you got home, you were dead. He was indicted twice. Trump got indicted 4 times. My parents are looking down. They said, what the hell happened to our boy? What happened to him?
Los papás de
But
Trump
think of that, the biggest gangster of them all, Alphonse Capone. He's probably looking down and saying, that guy's actually a very nice person. I can't believe it. But he did this, and the press and all of the legal pundits said, you can't. I mean, take a look. I was indicted by Fannie in Georgia. Fannie. How did that work out?
Tripeándose a Fannie.
And her lover, Nathan Wade. And they hired him for almost $1 million because of his great experience. Of course, he didn't have any experience. He had experience in something else. You know that. A lot of experience. And at that, I'm quite sure he was very good based on the fact that you called him 2,000 times.
Ponle corneta, Trump.
Gentlemen, I didn't know. Oh, you have 2,000 phone calls, 3,500 text messages. How is it possible? In a short, I know a lot of people. We like a lot of people. I happen to have a very good relationship with a woman called Melania. But I would venture to say in all the years that I've known her, I might not have called her 2,500 times. I know I didn't send 3,500 text messages. And they did this in a very short period. But they knew each other long before this indictment. So you look at that, well, that's so terrible. The boxes hoax. Well, Joe Biden had more boxes than any human being ever. And they let him off. Of course, I wouldn't want to be let off that way. They say he's incompetent. We'll let him off. So I don't like that. But I also come under the Presidential Record Act, which gives you absolute rights to do it. He didn't have the Presidential Records Act. And then you look at January 6th. It was a rigged election, and we're looking at it, and almost everybody in this room agrees. It was a rigged election, and that rigged election destroyed our country. And then we have the DA in Manhattan, who is actually run by the DOJ. You know, they put their top guy into the DA's office to run the DA. The whole thing is so corrupt. Fannie is just the beginning. It's not really, excuse me, I'd like to apologize to Fannie. It's F-A-N-I. She pronounces it Fannie.
Hey, saluditos, Lidia. Hacha, pero muchacha, ojalá yo a los 80 años estuviera así de duro como está él.
Joe sent to Congress was a bill to turn illegal aliens into voting citizens. Now he's pushing another mass amnesty plan while calling it border security. He's saying mass amnesty. We're going to go border security. Let's call it.
Ustedes están entendiendo lo que él dice. Él está diciendo, mira, ahora viene Amnistía Internacional y hace otro scam y llaman una crisis al border para obligarnos a entrar esa gente para adentro. Trump está despierto. Él está despierto y él no cree en la ONU, él no cree en nada de esas cosas. Él cree en Estados Unidos y olvídate lo demás. Así que tenemos que pensar así por lo menos 10 o 20 años. Enderezar la economía y luego pensamos en ayudar a los otros países. Si seguimos pensando en ayudar a los demás antes de ayudarnos a nosotros mismos, Nunca vamos a salir de este problema que tenemos siempre.
That was like some of the bills he passed, right? Do you remember the bills he passed? He put phony names on the bills because it sounded good. It wasn't good. The Inflation Reduction Act, right? And then he admitted after it got passed, it actually has nothing to do with inflation reduction. It actually has to do with inflation increase. Okay, it was a fake bill. The bill Joe Biden once passed would give him unlimited power to grant asylum to millions and millions and millions of illegals. You know what they call them now, right? You know, they changed the name as of yesterday. You know what they call them? Newcomers.
Newcomers.
Newcomers. Oh, no, the word is newcomers. We're not allowed to say it's politically incorrect. This political incorrect stuff is killing it. From now on, you have to call them newcomers or you will be indicted by the DOJ in Washington.
Wow, mira lo que acaba de decir. Viste, obviamente quizás está exagerando. Pero tienes que decirle a los inmigrantes, no le puedes decir el problema. Tienes que decir la nueva economía. Newcomers, como ese es comercio moderno. Qué loco.
They will indict you immediately, the DOJ. No, they said last night, we are going to call the people that came into our country. We used to call them illegal aliens. We call them a lot of different names. But newcomers is a step too far. But they are newcomers from now on. Please, everybody, call them. Does everybody agree with that? Newcomers.
No.
I'm shocked to hear that. The Biden border will, well, you know this, right? The Biden border bill would turbocharge the continued invasion of our country, and therefore his plan would totally demolish Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, health care, and all of public education. And you know they're going to be getting all of these things that are already in trouble, and they're going to destroy all of that. And you see what's going on in New York? They have pupils from foreign countries.
Saludito, Fernán, ¿cómo estamos? Y Elisa, saludito.
That even teaches it.
Mira, dímelo, Tito.
Nobody ever heard of. They're sitting in the school chairs of people, of kids that were there, and those kids aren't able to go to school any longer. There's no place they can go. They're taking the school, and they don't speak a word of English, so the teacher's up there teaching, and they don't know what the hell is going on. Our country is being laughed at all over the world. But I will not let him destroy Social Security. I will not let him crash Medicare. I will not let him turn our public schools into migrant camps, which is what they're doing. And I will not let him turn the USA into a crime-filled, disease-ridden dumping ground. You know, people with terrible, terrible disease that is easily caught, I have to say, they're pouring into our country in addition to everything else. It's so crazy. Who would want this? Think of it. Who would want this? Open borders where people are allowed to come in from mental institutions and jails. Who would want this? Who would? Is there something good? I guess the only thing I can say is they're trying to sign them up to get them to vote in the next election. That's all it is. But they don't really need that, because what they do is they just use blank ballots. You know, they just drop ballots. So they don't really have to destroy our country for that. Although when you use blank ballots, I would say that's also destroying our country, wouldn't you say? Every day Joe Biden is giving aid and comfort to the foreign enemies of the United States. Biden's conduct on our border is by any definition a conspiracy to overthrow the United States of America. That's what's happening. The anger, the hatred, the fear. Biden and his accomplices, and that's what it is. It's really more the accomplices. I mean, the guy can't put two sentences together. He can't find the stairs to a platform.
Tripeándose a Biden.
I have to be careful. You know, every time I do that, my wife called and said, how good was that speech tonight? I had 29,000 people. How good was that? She said it was good, darling, but they said you had a terrible time finding your way off the platform. So every time I do that, or I'll say,
déjame leer el chat, que vamos rápido y los mensajes están automáticos. Ok, espérate, aquí dice... Exacto, Tito Morales, el que no salga a votar por Trump está loco. Mira, ese hombre tiene 80 años y está sólido y se tripea a Biden. Biden no vale 2 chavos ahora mismo. No suelta a Biden, es verdad. No, pero eso dura como 1 hora y media y ha hablado de él como 20 minutos. Pero en verdad la gente quiere escuchar eso. Acuérdate que él ha ido a diferentes estados. En cada estado que él vaya, tiene que decir el mismo chiste otra vez porque la gente lo está esperando. Aquí dice William, Hebreo, brother, busca las estadísticas que Biden ha hecho con la economía, los trabajos, 16 millones de trabajos cuando Trump solo hizo 4 millones cuando estaba presente. Ok, bueno, hay que ver, porque por ejemplo, puede ser que sea cierto lo que dice William. Dianche, ¿cómo yo? Está bien, tengo que seguir seteando el chat porque no lo puedo volver a poner el texto. Pero yo digo lo siguiente, puede ser lo que tú dices que Biden haya hecho más trabajo, pero los trabajos de Biden son de indocumentados, de gente joven. Trump, quizás esos 4 millones eran de fábricas, haciendo negocios con otros países, ¿sabes? Que era un tipo de trabajo que te iba a dejar más dinero. Acuérdate que los de izquierda, los demócratas, ellos hacen esto siempre, ellos abren las fronteras porque quieren más empleados domésticos, gente que haga la grama, todos estos empleos de los bollos bajitos, eso es lo que siempre los de izquierda promueven. Por eso es que Biden abrió la frontera. Que si tú miras, esos son los trabajos que se de esto. Trump también estamos en pandemia. Cuando vienes a ver también, y más aparte estaban las protestas, él no pudo ejecutar bien. Y con todo eso, trepó el espíritu boricua otra vez. Hacho, no, mire, Trump hizo muchas cosas más. Acuérdate que son cosas que ustedes no las están viendo, pero Trump, los aranceles chinos, Trump hizo unas leyes que benefician la economía. Biden, las leyes que hacía siempre eran en pro de los inmigrantes. Por ejemplo, metió cosas del Army, metió más mujeres al Army. En vez de reforzar el Army, en vez de darle chavos, lo que hizo fue meter leyes para meter mujeres. Exactamente. Como está diciendo Rambo, eso lo que pasa es que esos, déjame bajarlo acá, que está muy alto. Espérate. Esos empleos de COVID, eso es lo que pasa, esa es la diferencia, que también Trump estaba en COVID. Pero anyway, yo digo que Trump, si 4 años ahora y que se prenda la nación, porque mi gente no es solamente que consiga más o menos empleo, es que él, mira cómo despierta a la gente. Necesitamos un líder que, independientemente de la política pública que él haga o las leyes, que inspire, que la gente lo vea y piense en America Great Again. Y él es un símbolo de lo que es un americano exitoso, un tipo multimillonario de Nueva York, blanco, grande. ¿Me entiendes lo que te digo? No, pero óyeme, Tino Racing y esta gente, eso es normal, eso es bueno que tengamos diferentes puntos de vista, porque esa es la realidad. Creo que queremos que todo el mundo aporte su pensamiento y entre todos discutirlo. Hey, saluditos, Ivonne, ¿qué está pasando? Exactamente, Mar Luis. El gobierno, eso es otra. El gobierno de izquierda le gusta tener muchos empleados públicos. A los de derecha republicanos, no. Ellos prefieren que sea privado las cosas, no que el gobierno tenga mucho trabajo. Esa es la diferencia, una de las diferencias grandes de Pierluisi y Jennifer González versus Dalmau. Que Dalmau, ejemplo, Pierluisi y esta gente piensan que el Estado, las cosas deben ser privadas, pero Dalmau piensa que tiene que haber mucha ayuda social. Esa es básicamente una diferencia grande de la izquierda y la derecha. Pero vamos a ver, yo digo que si a Trump le dan 4 años, sin pandemia, sin protesta, pues puede poner a Estados Unidos bien adelante.
Our president, Barack Hussein Obama, now I do that because, that makes a point. Do we understand?
Mira, para darte un ejemplo, ahorita él estaba hablando, Trump estaba hablando de que él hizo un negocio. Hey, saludito, viene Helio Friverdejo, durísimo. Mira, Trump estaba diciendo que él hizo un negocio con México y básicamente lo obligó. Él primero los iba a obligar a pagar el D-Wall, la verja. Después los obligó a que pusieran 28,000 soldados para proteger la borda. ¿Cómo los obligó? Le dijo, mira, por los soldados para proteger eso. No los quiero poner. No lo vas a poner. pues está bien, yo los pago, pero te voy a subir el tax 25% a lo que exportes para Estados Unidos. Le dijo a México. Y México dijo, no, está bien, yo pago a los soldados. Los soldados mexicanos son más baratos que los soldados americanos. Eso es un ejemplo de los movimientos que Trump hace. Ahora mismo, en la guerra de Ucrania, Trump hubiera abierto a hablar con Putin. Mira, ¿qué tú quieres? Pues vamos a negociar, dale un pedazo, suelta, esto se acabó, ¡pam! Un ejemplo. Esa es la diferencia del pensamiento. Biden no. Biden, como estamos pendientes a lo que la gente piense, a lo que el partido, a lo que los de izquierda, es para complacer a la gente. Trump no está ahí para complacer a la gente. Trump está ahí para dar resultados. Se insultó, si habló malo, si a la gente no le gustó, eso no importa. Después que él nos dé resultados, eso es lo que él tiene que hacer.
And that, right? Because a lot of people say he's running the country. I don't personally think so. But it is being run by a group of radical left thugs that circle the beautiful desk, the Resolute desk, one of the most beautiful desks in the world. It's been badly stained by the occupant right now. But when I say Barack Hussein Obama, the president of our country, on the news that night they go, Donald Trump didn't know the name of our president. He said it was President Obama. It's President Biden. So I have to be very, very careful. I have to be very, very careful. We have many of them. I purposely mix up like a name like Bird Brain. You know who Bird Brain is, right, Nikki? With Nancy Pelosi. I put them in because they're interchangeable in my mind.
Sandra, sí, porque es que estaban pasando muchas cosas, ¿sabes? Fue una mezcla de mucho, las protestas, George Floyd, de esto en llamas. La gente aprovecharon esas protestas y las enfocaron en él. Pero ahora la gente está, hace 2 años atrás la gente está diciendo, ay Dios mío, ¿por qué no ganó Trump? Todo el mundo está arrepentido de Biden hoy en día.
It's a disaster. Guaranteed, the fake news, the enemy of the people, will say he could not.
Exacto, J.C. Colón, Trump, Bukele, Milei y Javier Jiménez. Hasta ahora, eso es lo que vamos por aquí. Y sabes que me gustó también José Hernández, el hijo de Hernández Colón, el nieto de Hernández Colón. También lo vi enfocado en economía y no tanto en estatus ni esas cosas. Él quiere arreglar la economía primero. Exactamente, Joseph Morales. No es que todas las personas hasta hacen esto por razones equivocadas, hasta nosotros mismos. Pero de verdad, como adultos, tenemos que empezar a ver las acciones, no las palabras. Que Biden, que Trump habla bien al garete, eso lo sabemos. Pero que dé resultado y que nos ponga al día, eso es lo que nos tiene que importar.
All right, let's do a poll. This is a poll of people with common sense. I don't even say conservative so much. You're conservative, but what are we really? We're people with common sense. We want to have borders. We want to have a free, fair election. We don't want to have crazy forms of counting our vote. We want to have paper ballots, same-day voting, voter ID, nice and simple. I like that group over there.
Glenn Kirchner.
Is there anything better? Think of this.
Déjame ver, ¿quién es Glenn Kirchner? Ah, no, Glenn Kirchner no es el yerno. Ese no es el yerno de Trump, el que se casó con la hija de los Kirchner.
Than a Trump rally in Virginia. Is there anything? No. I just left. I did another one of these. You think this is easy doing this? I had a nice life. I didn't have to do this. I had such a nice life, and then I would deal with these sick people. And China, Russia, North Korea, all of these countries, they're easy compared to dealing with the radical left lunatics in the United States. The easy part, somebody said, is it tough dealing with China? I said, it's tougher dealing with the crazies in the U.S. It is true.
Sí, pero fíjate, mira, ahora mismo, ¿quién fue que dijo esto? Mira, te voy a decir, Trump acaba de contestar el mensaje aquí. Ok, como estamos desde Ucrania y Rusia, entiendo que China y Rusia, perdón, pueden ser fuertes, pero ¿sabes qué? Es mejor guerrear y pelear con ellos y es mejor arreglar las cosas con ellos que estar peleando en Estados Unidos con las tonterías de izquierda, porque eso es lo que está pasando. Pues ¿sabes qué? Vamos para la guerra con Rusia y arreglamos esto de una vez antes de estar pendejeando con las protestas y las cosas en Estados Unidos. Eso es lo que él está hablando exactamente ahora. Y China y Rusia se negocia con ellos necesitan de nosotros. No, pero Kirchner, el yerno, exacto.
I was exactly right on that call. I got impeached for making a perfect phone call. Crooked Joe will not succeed with these plans, and he will not get away with these crimes and their crimes. He will be tried at the ballot box this November, and he will be judged and convicted by the American people. Under Biden, we now have a new category of crime. You know what it's called? It's called migrant crime. And this category is turning out to be worse than any crime we've ever had in our country. I saw things that I've never thought. These are tough people that come over, you know, and they do. They come out of prisons, they come out of these institutions, and they're rough people. These are rough people. The only good thing is they make
bueno, pues Mili, búscame el nombre bien escrito, yo lo busco. Busca el nombre bien escrito para buscarlo en lo que vemos el video.
Run and hit a cop and run away. They were having fist fights with the cops in the middle of Madison Avenue. Fist fights where the cops are at. These guys are at. They were from Venezuela. And you know how long they had lasted in Venezuela?
Sí, pero Félix García, entiendo lo que dice. Pero ¿sabes lo que pasa? Que los rusos están practicando. Y los rusos aprendieron con Ucrania cómo bregar con las armas americanas. Yo vi siempre eso como un área para probar. Y estaban probando los rusos y los chinos las armas americanas y los americanos las armas rusas. Eso fue un experimento de ver quién tenía qué armas. Por eso es que así como los americanos se beneficiaron, los rusos también están practicando.
I have a new name. Do you know what it is, right? Does anybody know what it is? Newscom. Gavin Newscom. I don't know if it's good or bad. We'll find out. I'd love to run against him, actually. This guy says California's doing so well. It's not doing well. It's doing horribly, actually. Now, Gavin Newscom. Last week, a beautiful 22-year-old nursing student in Georgia. Beautiful, beautiful girl.
Exacto. Jared es el yerno. Ok, está bien, pues deja que terminemos lo de Trump y chequeo ese video. Glenn Kirchner. Pero tiene que ver con Trump. ¿Qué tiene que ver él con Trump?
Beautiful person. She was brutally assaulted, horrifically beaten, kidnapped, and savagely.
Uy, lo que está diciendo ahora, déjame bajarlo.
Almost beyond, think of it, almost beyond recognition. The monster charge in her death is an illegal alien migrant who was led into our country and released into our community.
Exacto, Tino Racing. Wow, Trump es el único presidente que fue y cruzó la línea de Corea. Tienes toda la razón, papá. Acuérdate que él está para hacer dinero, no para estar guerreando.
We have the worst border in the history of the world. We mourn this terrible loss and we send our love to Lakin's family. I spoke with the mother and the father. The devastation is just like incredible. What can you say? You know, it's hard to talk to people. They've just been devastated. The thing that the person, the element of life that they love the most was just taken away from them. Taken away. Maybe in heaven they meet again. Maybe in heaven. But other than that, there's no hope of ever seeing her again. And she was beautiful. The mother said, oh, she was such a good student. She was the best nurse in her class. She was going to be a great park when they were caught in the crossfire of a gun battle between two vicious thugs. That 2-year-old boy was struck. A bullet struck him in a very bad location. The illegal alien migrant charged with his murder had been previously arrested multiple times by different police forces and released every time under Montgomery County, Maryland sanctuary law, very liberal laws in Montgomery County, as you probably know. His murder is blood in the hands of Joe Biden and every Democrat who fought to preserve sanctuary cities. They're very dangerous. They're very bad. Very bad. In Washington, D.C. last month, 3 Metropolitan police officers were savagely shot and gravely
saludito, Silvia. Buenas
wounded.
noches.
Alien barricaded in an apartment, shot him, and just surprise attack. And 3 weeks ago, a young man who worked for me in the White House, fantastic young man, was carjacked, and rather than saying, get out of your car, he just shot him right through the head and killed him almost instantly, died the following day. Great person. Everybody that was in my administration, they loved him. The wife, the family. The wife was walking to the car. He was picking up the wife where she worked, and this guy came up, wanted the car, and shot him, and he died right in front of the wife. And this is our capital. We're going to change it. We're going to change it around. We're going to be so tough. And last year, a sadistic illegal alien released by crooked Joe Biden was arrested for raping an 11-year-old girl in Texas and strangling her to death after knocking on the door of her home. Her father later discovered her body badly beaten and stuffed under her bed. The father came home and found her like that. No one more innocent. We're not going to have one more innocent American life. It just can't. We can't let this go on. Migrant crime.
Amén, William. Siempre buscamos la verdad. Tienes toda razón.
We have bad crime, but now you can add this to it. They've let 15 million people. I'll tell you, that's what I think the number is, and I think it's going to be 18 million by the time we get the worst president in our history out of office. This is why a central question in this election is whether the foreign armies of Joe Biden is smuggled across our border. He's letting armies of people come in. Military age. They smuggle them across our border. They walk into our border. They don't even have to smuggle anymore. For a while they were smuggling. Now they're not smuggling. They just walk across and do whatever they want. We are not going to allow them to stay in our country. We don't want to see what's going on. Why is it? We're going to get them out. We're going to take them out, get out and go home. But if we have to, we're going to get them home. Or we're going to have to do worse than that. I don't want to fill up our prisons. I don't want to fill up our prisons. Our prisons are already full with other people's prisoners. You have to see, the prison population all over the world is at the lowest point it's been in many decades because they're dumping their prisoners into our country. Doesn't this stupid guy understand this? And it makes sense. It makes so much sense. If I were running Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, Mexico, or the Congo, or any country, Brazil, a lot coming in from Brazil, a lot coming in from Venezuela, nothing more expensive than storing a prisoner in a jail for 60 years. But of course, they don't spend quite as much as us. They spend very little. When you go in those jails, it's the worst that you can imagine. But how does he allow this to happen? Anybody would say it. I said it a long time ago. As soon as I heard what they were doing, I said, oh, they're going to end up emptying. I know all these guys. I know many of them. And they're very streetwise, smart people. They're streetwise. Joe's not streetwise. Joe is just a dumb guy. He's a dumb guy. Nobody respects him. He's lost. And again, I never talked about him until I got indicted 4 times on charges that should have never been brought. These are all Biden indictments. If Joe Biden's illegal alien migrants do not go back to their countries, we will never get our country back. So if you elect Donald J. Trump on November 5th, most important day in our history, remember that. I promise you they'll be going back to their countries. I don't know if you saw Maduro in Venezuela 2 days ago. They sent many of their criminals and their jailbirds. I'm sure some are fine people.
No, pero está bien, William, es que nosotros no sabemos quién era. Siempre había escuchado Jared Kushner. Pero es cierto, lo buscamos ya mismo,
That, right? They keep a lot of productive people. They're not going to lose them. They're like every other country. You want to have certain people. Maybe you don't want to have others. We don't have a choice because we take everybody's discards.
Mi gente, le puse el retrato de Trump porque el video que estamos viendo está bien pixelado. So, para que no se vea tan mal, pues.
Accept them back. We're never going to accept them back. And when I got to the White House, you remember that, I was met by generals. I said, get these people out, MS-13. They say, sir, they won't allow them back in. I said, yes, they will. I said, no, they won't. El Salvador, Honduras, and Guatemala, 3 countries. And I said, what do you mean they won't? Under the Biden administration, meaning vice president, because he was supposed to be in charge, but everything he's in charge of doesn't work out. His foreign policy is the worst of any human being in history. Look at Afghanistan, the worst. But under Obama and Biden, they...
Mira, les voy a enseñar más o menos cómo está quedando el estudio ahora, donde tengo seteado la computadora. Después voy a poner una cámara para que lo vean de afuera.
Couldn't get him back in. And I was told by the general, sir, they won't accept him. I said, which countries? They named those 3 countries. So I say, how much foreign aid do we give them? Sir, we give them approximately $750 million.
Exacto, JC Colón, JC Colón, tienes toda la razón.
We give to everybody, we're stupid. But they give $750 million. So I said, that's all right, they won't take them back, right? Yeah, you watch. I immediately cut off all funds going to those 3 countries. The next day, almost simultaneously, but separate, I got calls from the heads, presidents of those 3 countries. Sir, I understand there's a misunderstanding. I said, yeah, you won't take the people back that you sent over to us, because they send them, you know, the caravans, they put the people in there. Murderers, drug dealers. I said, yeah, you don't understand? Well, you understand because you won't let them in. You know, we send plane loads of people.
Óyeme, Trump es el único presidente, si no me equivoco, que ha perdido chavos estando en la presidencia. Todos los demás salieron con más dinero del que él tenía y Trump salió con casi $1 billón menos de como entró.
People from Honduras or whatever, other countries too. And they'd put airplanes on the runway so the planes couldn't land. They'd close the road so the buses couldn't go. You couldn't get them in, right? You couldn't get them in. They'd come back to the United States. So stupid. So I said, you immediately cut off all foreign aid. Let them know that effective immediately they don't get $750 million anymore. And I go to the office the next morning, and lo and behold, I have 3 phone calls. Nice guys. Look, they're smart. You know, I'd do the same thing. I really would. I'd send everybody, and I wouldn't let them back either. I wouldn't let them back. But if you had a president like me, I said, President, I'd love to have them back because they're not going to have a choice. But I said, stop paying them the $750 million in foreign aid. I get 3 phone calls, separate calls. Sir, there seems to be a misunderstanding. I said, yeah, we're not paying any more foreign aid. Why? Because you won't take back the people that you illegally sent into our country. They said, sir, we would be happy to take them back. Nobody ever told us. You know, this has gone on for 10 years, by the way. We didn't know about this particular problem, sir. We would be honored to have MS-13 brought back into our country. We love them very much. They are fine people. They are fine people. We would love to have them back in our country.
Fíjate, no había pensado en eso. Los de la salvatrucha de El Salvador que le están huyendo a Bukele, ¿para dónde usted cree que se fueron? A subir como si fueran indocumentados para Estados Unidos otra vez. Eso lo está diciendo Trump. Ahora también hay todos los que están huyendo a Bukele vienen para Estados Unidos otra vez.
And I solved that problem. And we took in thousands and thousands of gang members, MS-13 in particular, a really vicious gang. They love knives better than guns because it's more painful. They cut people up into they cut 2 beautiful high school kids, 16 years old, walking to school in Long Island. They cut them up into little pieces and they left them. These are the people that we're allowing into our country. And thank goodness for ICE and Border Patrol and these others. ICE, they're so tough. They took them out by the thousands. You know, ICE will look at a gang of real tough cookies, and they'll go in there, and they go in swinging. You know, a lot of these people don't know that. They think, oh, let's be very nice and gentle. They don't understand that. And ICE will go in swinging, and you'll see for about 2 minutes fists flying, and then they get up and they grab these guys and they put them in a paddy wagon, they get them out, and we take them out of the country. And we got to respect that. These are great American patriots. They're tough cookies, too. Because I know some men in the front row, and they're tough guys. They're not going to do that job, I guarantee. Your husband's not doing that job. You got to be tough as hell for that. But they're great patriots. They do an incredible job. On day one of my administration, I will terminate every open border policy of the Biden administration, and we will begin the largest domestic deportation operation in American history. We have no choice. This is not sustainable by any country.
Trump tiene razón.
It's no wonder Joe Biden and his thugs are so desperate to stop us. They know that we, by the way, MAGA, Make America Great Again. The greatest movement in the history of our country. And they say, always trying to demean, well, MAGA really represents 48% of the Republican Party. No, it represents 96% and maybe 100%. We're getting rid of the Romneys of the world. We want to get Romneys and those out. But they know that we are the only ones who can stop them. We're the only ones. This is the greatest movement in the history of our country, maybe in the history of any country. Even Argentina, they went MAGA. You know Argentina, great guy. He's a big Trump guy. He loves Trump. I love him because he loves Trump. When he called, I took his call. Anybody that loves me, I like them. But he's good. and he's a MAGA guy. But it's a slightly different form of MAGA. He is Make Argentina Great Again. That's pretty good. I said, you can have that. And he is. He's doing a good job over there. He's cutting like hell. He's getting rid of a lot of waste and a lot of things. And I hope they do well, because it's a beautiful place. It's a beautiful country. But I think they really have a good head man right now. He's a tough guy. But that's why they're weaponizing law enforcement for high-level election interference, because they can't get elected otherwise. Who's going to get elected? How can you get elected with high interest rates, bad education, open borders, bad elections, horrible fraudulent elections? You can only do it by cheating. That's the only way you get elected. Joe Biden goes after his political opponent. He's using that to go after his political opponent. And that does happen, never in this country before, but that does happen. But it happens in banana republics in third world countries. Joe Biden and his fascists that control him are the real threat to democracy in this country. They are a big threat, and they are corrupt. They are a big threat. He is the one. You know, they have like the standard line, Donald Trump is a threat to democracy. Some advertising agency wrote that down. I'm not a threat. I'm the one that's ending the threat to democracy.
Yeah.
Just yesterday, it was revealed that Crooked Joe's brother admitted under oath that Joe Biden personally received a massive check paid for with money that came directly from a Chinese energy company controlled by the Chinese Communist Party. Well, how about all the money that he's getting from Penn, University of Pennsylvania? I went there, the Wharton School of Finance. It's great. I went there. So Penn, they give them hundreds of millions of dollars, and Biden gets paid a lot of money by the Chinese. I'm glad that Republicans in Congress are going after the massive Biden crime, family corruption. I give them a lot of credit. I give them a lot of credit. In particular, they're going after Crooked Joe Biden, and I hope they keep doing it because he's illegally after me with the DOJ, in coordination with the district attorneys and attorney generals in the states. It's not just them. We have, as an example, Forney and her lover, Nathan Wade in Georgia. Letitia James, Judge.
Gesara, no sé lo que es. No sé lo que es eso, Sandra.
New York State. Alvin Bragg, the DA, and his puppet master from the DOJ. Think of it. Think of it. Biden put his top guy, one of his top guys in the DOJ, into the DA's office in Manhattan over bullshit. His name is Colangelo. And now he is essentially running the DA's office in Manhattan, and they go after me with state agencies and city agencies but it's all run by the DOJ. It's crooked stuff, really. These are crooked people. Merrick Garland, Lisa Monaco, deranged Jack Smith, Judge Chutkin, Charles McGonigal. You know him, right? He was in charge of the Russia hoax for the FBI. Charles McGonigal. I know the name well. He was in charge of it, and they just arrested him because he received money from Russia. This can only happen to me. He's in charge of Russia. We're going to find it. We're going to get that Trump, that son of a bitch. We're going to get him. And they just got him for getting money from Russia. This is too much. And all the others in D.C., impossible for me. It's really impossible for me to get a fair trial in D.C., but that's okay. Don't worry. I don't know what's going to happen. I really don't. But it's all going to work out. We're going to come out so good. I'm more popular than I ever was because of these people. More popular. True. You know, we won twice. We won big in 2016, but we won much bigger with millions and millions more votes in 20.
Mi gente, este es el caso al revés. Es como que lo están acusando porque no quiere que compita, porque Trump es como del pueblo. Los políticos élite le están inventando 20 excusas para acusarlo, para que vaya para corte. No quieren que él vaya y gane, no quieren que él compita. Le tienen un terror que le están haciendo 20 injusticias y él va a competir y va a ganar y se siente en el ambiente.
2020. It was a rigged election. The votes came in, then they added a lot of votes to it. You saw
okay,
it.
Yo lo chequé entonces ya mismo, Sandra.
The only thing they don't want people talking about that election. Even Fox is afraid to talk about it. They're all afraid to talk about it. They don't mind going after the people looking into the rigging and knowing what happened. But they never go after the people that rigged the election. The biggest single threat, and we're going to stop it because we have no choice as a country. They cheat. They're dirty players, and we're not going to let it happen anymore. We're not going to let it happen. They got away with something that has essentially destroyed our country. But remember, these are not legitimate indictments. These are crooked Joe Biden indictments of me, his political opponent. It's a continuation of the greatest witch hunt of all time, and we're not going to let
no me sale nada, Sandra. Le pongo Gesara y le doy search y no me sale nada, ¿ves? No hay results.
All of this is only happening because I'm running for president and leading big in all the polls. I mean, when the New York Times has this front page story tomorrow, you'll see it just came out, that Trump is killing this guy.
¿Tú crees que no vaya a ganar, William? Pero vamos a pensar. ¿Qué otro candidato está igual de fuerte que él? Ponte a pensar. ¿Qué otro candidato está igual de fuerte que sea Trump? ¿Cuál es la competencia de Trump ahora mismo? No tiene. Trump no tiene competencia ahora mismo. Él va derechito para allá. Imagínate que los demócratas no han tratado. Ellos pudieron haber buscado a un demócrata para que compita con Trump. Ellos ni van a gastar fuerza porque saben que no hay break ahí.
The Emerson Hill poll of the general election, we're crushing Biden in every single one of the swing states. And in the Harvard-Harris bill also just came out, we're leading Crooked Joe by 6 points, which means a lot more. Because, you know, when I'm leading by 6 points, I hate to say this, I shouldn't say it, it's a little embarrassing.
Claro que
when
gana.
They say, who are you voting for? When they say it's none of your business, or tougher words, you know, they call it the FU word. When they use the FU word, because I would never say it because we have children in here, and we have very, very sensitive ears, so I don't want to say it. My wife hates it if I use foul language. She said, darling, you should not have used a bad word. But when they use that, somebody says, who did you vote for? And you say, it's none of your business. That means you voted for Trump. So they don't count it. See, right? She's nodding. You look like a smart one, don't you? How with that black dress? The radical left Democrats rigged the presidential election of 2020, and we're not going to allow them to rig the presidential election of 2024. every time the radical left Democrats, Marxists, communists, and fascists indict me.
Sí que sí, pero yo también me lo estoy vacilando porque estamos en YouTube y hay que darle un poquito de... Hay que echarle azúcar al café para que se lo diviertan.
Not only as your past and hopefully future president, because we're going to turn this country around fast, but as a proud political dissident. I am a dissident, and I'm proud, very proud of this country. We had the greatest economy in history. Think of it. We had the strongest border in history. We were energy independent. We were going to be energy dominant. All the things.
Óyeme, además, mira ese señor, 80 años y no se ha callado y está ahí. Mira, esos pulmones están sólidos. Yo quiero que alguien ganador dirija. Vamos a ganar. Está bueno ya de estar ahí. Ay, bendito. Es que él habla malo, él me trata bien. Que te trate como sea, dale. Quiero resultados. Vamos, dame resultados y olvídate de las actitudes. Eso es eso es problema de Melina.
They want to silence me because I will never let them silence you. And in the end, they're not after me, they're after you. I just happen to be standing in their way. Thank you very much.
Mira lo que acaba de decir.
So we're delighted to be joined by some...
Mira lo que acaba de decir. Mira lo que acaba de decir. Él está entre medio defendiéndonos. Chequea a la izquierda. Te quiere pobre. Quiere dar ayudas sociales. Mientras más ayudas sociales da, es para que tú menos hagas dinero. Quiere que haya inmigrantes. Todo eso nos beneficia, nos perjudica a nosotros. Y Trump está entre medio. Trump representa más trabajo, America Great Again, menos inmigrantes, el Estado menos Estado interventor, para que la economía suba. Él ahora mismo la esperanza, olvídate si yo creo en él o no. Es que los otros que hay son Biden y el corillo. Si no es Biden, es uno como él, pero representan lo mismo. Trump representa Milley, Bukele, es esa esquina. Nosotros necesitamos nuestro Milley, nuestro Bukele, ¿lo quieren? Ahí está. Yo les hablo claro. No, en Puerto Rico no tenemos un Bukele todavía. Si no, se los hubiera dicho, míralo ahí. No, aquí no hay ninguno todavía. Pero en Estados Unidos está Trump. Así mismo como está Bukele y está Milley en Argentina. Y tenemos que reconocerlo. Son en la misma pensamiento filosófico. Igual que usted y yo sabemos que primero hay que arreglar la economía para después ayudar a los demás. Si usted se está ahogando, usted tiene que salvarse primero antes de ayudar al del lado que se está ahogando también, porque si no los dos se van a ahogar. Ese es el pensamiento de esta esquina de Trump. Vamos a enderezar la economía, después bregamos con la changuería y ya. ¿Sabes? Que te sientas mal, que te sientas bien, eso no es problema de nadie. Todos tenemos problemas y eso tú tienes que resolvértelo. El Estado va a resolver lo económico y vamos a poner los militares fuertes otra vez. Y después bregamos con las ayudas sociales. ¿Sabes qué dice el chat? Que voy envuelto acá. Exacto, Sandra Jualve. Ese plan mundial es de izquierda. La ONU, las Naciones Unidas, todas estas cosas son de izquierda. Trump es de la derecha, es lo opuesto. Es lo opuesto. Trump ahora mismo es el pueblo. Alex Kaiser. Claro, ese es durísimo. Alex Kaiser es durísimo. Ese será un buen candidato para la presidencia de Chile. Él es amigo de Milley y toda esa gente de derecha. Ay, que dice aquí Mili. Es como decir que los corruptos hacen sus fechorías en Puerto Rico y aún votas por ellos y después se quejan. Por eso yo no estoy votando por los PNP. Para mí el PNP son lo más corrupto que hay. No, en Puerto Rico yo no veo un candidato, independientemente del partido, que yo diga, wow, este tipo es inteligente, este tipo nos va a sacar va a ayudarnos mucho en la economía. No encuentro todavía ninguno. En Estados Unidos lo único que he visto es Trump. En Bukele lo vi, en Javier Milley lo vi antes que ganara. Yo sabía que eso es lo que necesitaba Argentina. Aunque aquí dice, no olvidemos de Biden, pero Trump. Milley, es que es un tipo claro, es un tipo que va a tomar las decisiones difíciles. Es un tipo que, ok, vengan acá, si ustedes, si tú tienes, te voy a hacer una pregunta para esto aquí. Yo les voy a dar a escoger. ¿Qué tú prefieres? Cámbiame el tiro de cámara. ¿Qué tú prefieres? ¿Un presidente que sea bien bueno, que sea bien tranquilo, que nunca hable malo, pero asimismo la economía mala. O un presidente que habla como Trump, que es mal hablado, que sin cojones, que dice lo que sea, pero que venga y resuelva los problemas. Yo prefiero que resuelva los problemas. Olvídate cómo hable, olvídate cómo te trate, cómo te haga sentir, es irrelevante. Yo necesito resultados. Y Trump es resultado, aunque te haga sentir mal. Pero vamos, necesitamos resultados.
Great people tonight. Former governor of Virginia, Jim Gilmore.
El dientuno es El Salvador. Dímelo, Sabiondo, está pasando.
Did a very good job, thank you. Good governor. Congressman Matt Gaetz and Ginger.
El voto es en Texas. Muy bien, David.
Good man. Congresswoman, and by the way, somebody who's way up in the polls, Lauren Boebert. Hi, Lauren. Great, honey. Great. Republican National Committeeman Morton Blackwell. Thank you, Morton. Republican National Committee woman Patty Lyman.
Ok, déjame darle para adelante porque él está felicitando a la gente del caucus de Virginia, aparentemente. Déjame ver.
If they listened to me with Afghanistan, we would have been back a long time ago. A long time ago. The Taliban, you know that story, but the Taliban, I dealt with Abdul. I said, Abdul, you're killing our soldiers. You're not going to kill any more of our soldiers. On the phone, the press went crazy. They said, why does he speak to Abdul? Because that's where the death was, you know. Jesse James, why do you rob the banks? Because that's where the money is, you stupid people. That's where the death
Where's the money?
I said, Abdul, he's still there. He's the head of the Taliban. He said, you're killing our soldiers. Don't do it anymore because terror will rain down on you. And he called you, yes, Your Highness. He called me Your Highness, which is interesting. But he said, yes, I understand. For 18 months, we didn't have one soldier killed in Afghanistan. For 18 months. And then we had a rigged election, and this stupid fool took over, and we had that horrible airlift. He said, we'll never have anything like Vietnam. This thing blew Vietnam away with the people on the airplane from 3,000 feet up. They start falling off the plane. Before I even arrive at the Oval Office, shortly after we win the presidency, I will have the horrible war between Russia and Ukraine settled. I know them both very well. And we will restore peace through strength. Get that war settled. It's a bad war.
Ok, yo no pienso, entiendo tu punto, Mili, pero yo no pienso que él se quiere ir por encima. Yo pienso que a él lo están atacando. Acuérdate que ahora mismo, si él dejara de competir, se caen los casos. ¿Me entiendes? A él, si dejara de competir, se caen los casos. Pero siguió para adelante, ¿entiendes? Acuérdate que no es un tipo que quiere romper la ley. Es que están usando la ley para evitar que compita. Y están haciendo todos estos inventos para evitar que compita. El juez, la fiscal, son todos demócratas. Hay un video de la fiscal en el 2018 diciendo que ella es la que va a meter presa a Trump. Estamos hablando de hace 6 años atrás. Ya esa fiscal estaba planchando esto.
And Putin, you know, has so little respect for Obama that he's starting to throw around the nuclear word today. You heard that, nuclear. He's starting to talk nuclear weapons today. I was waiting for that to happen. But we have a fool as a president. He said, we will never leave until there is complete and total victory. We might be there for a long time. No, we have a fool. I'll get that thing settled. I know both men very well. Remember that Zelensky was the one I was talking to on the phone. And when they called him, they said, no, he was a perfect gentleman. Remember, they said I was threatening him, quid pro quo. Well, bullshit, it was all made up. Then they heard, after they had given their whole case, they heard that the call was taped. I called the general. I say, by any chance was my call to Zelensky taped? Yes, sir, it was. I said, you got to be kidding. This is too good. Bring it up. And I listened to it, and it was the exact opposite of what they were saying. It was just thank you and congratulations for your win, et cetera, et cetera. It was a perfect phone call. But they had already gone out, and they impeached me over nothing. They impeached me over something where I was right, because I talked about corruption in Ukraine. We actually have a treaty where you are supposed...
No, pero Mili, eso lo dijo en forma de chiste, igual que dijo que la vacuna era como echarnos cloro en las venas. Trump es un adulto y habla con mucha retórica y doble sentido. Él lo dijo en una entrevista como que bien obvio, como algo tan obvio que es mentira, como que, yo soy tan famoso que yo puedo matar a alguien en la esto y no me pasa nada. Pero él lo dijo en una conversación y lo dijo en forma de chiste. Lo que pasa es que los reporteros, tú te das cuenta cuando un reportero quiere atacar a Trump, utiliza eso. ¿Me entiendes lo que te quiero decir? Acuérdate que a él tiene una inmunidad, porque por ejemplo, los presidentes tienen inmunidad porque si ahora mismo en Afganistán un soldado mata a una familia afgana o mata a un señor, entonces los hijos de esa familia se van de refugiados a Estados Unidos, esos hijos podrían demandar al presidente por la muerte de su papá. Por eso es que el presidente tiene inmunidad por las decisiones que se toman en la milicia, el FBI, la CIA. Si no, usted podría demandar al presidente por todo, porque él es responsable de esa organización o del gobierno. Por eso es que los presidentes tienen inmunidad durante el mandato, por las decisiones que tiene que tomar, porque es que si no, nadie quisiera ser presidente porque te pueden demandar por todo. Él lo dijo en forma de chiste, lo de que matar a una persona en la Quinta Avenida. Lo que pasa es que los reporteros lo utilizan. Ya tú sabes que si el reportero la tiene en contra de Trump, eso es un argumento que vas a escuchar muchas veces.
To be keeping that whole thing honest, because it is a very corrupt country. It's got a lot of problems, very corrupt country. With your vote, we will throw out Bidenomics. Biden, he thinks that's a good term. And we will reinstate Maganomics. We want Maganomics. Make America great again. Biden wants to give you a $6 trillion tax hike. He's going to give you the greatest, biggest...
Claro, Mili, porque es más fácil controlar a Biden que a Trump. Como son un contrincante, es mejor escoger un contrincante malo como Biden.
A tax hike meant you wouldn't win an election. Today they can say we're going to give you the biggest tax hike and people vote for them. I don't know, the country's very screwed up. But they're going to give you the biggest tax hike in history. But when I win, you're all getting tax cuts because we are going to extend the Trump tax cuts.
Va a cortar los taxes.
And then some.
Va a cortar
Remember
los taxes.
when we did the tax cuts, and then the following year it was announced that we took in record revenues because a lot of people came in and invested in the country. It was a beautiful thing. We had the greatest economy in the history of our country. There's never been an economy of any country that was even close to what we achieved in a short period of time.
Aquí es, mira, este es uno de los puntos importantes porque necesitamos una persona como Trump. Él no va a subir taxes, él va a quitar taxes. Eso solamente tú lo ves con los republicanos, los demócratas no quitan taxes. No sé, ¿ves lo que te quiero decir? Esto es un gobernante para la gente trabajadora. Esto es un gobernante que ahora mismo se va a preocupar más por la gente trabajadora que por los demás.
We'll immediately end Joe Biden's war on American energy. We will quickly end his inflation nightmare. And we will drill, baby, drill. Está
bien, Mili, pero esas son cosas que los hombres decimos por relajar con entre amigos. Pero eso es un chiste de hombre.
We're going to drill. We're going to have a lot of energy. We're going to bring down the cost of energy. I don't know if you know it. We're drilling pretty much now because he kept my policies because when he started closing everything, that is what caused the inflation and the mess. So he went back and he left my policies, but not really, because we were going to become the most dominant energy source in the world. You know, we have more liquid gold under our feet than any other country. And we were number 3 and number 4 when I took over. And within 2 years, we were so far above Saudi Arabia and Russia, which were number 1 and 2. You have to see the chart. They're like this, and we're like, ding, boom. This is me. I hear, bing. I got to put that chart up for people. You know, we put all these pictures of me. I'd rather have the chart up. How does the back of my head look? Is it okay?
Este Trump es un bandido.
I'm like an artist.
Es como un artista que duro este Trump.
We like an artist. By the way, we're in bad times, but is everyone at least having a good time?
Yeah.
On day one, I will terminate Crooked Joe's ridiculous electric vehicle mandate. It's so ridiculous. They're wonderful, but they don't go far. They're too expensive. And you know, I'm leading Michigan by 14 points. You know why? The auto workers love me. Because I'm going to bring auto workers back. They're not going to Mexico. They're not going to China. And they know that the electric vehicle mandate, they know that whole thing with electric vehicles, they're all going to be built in China because they have all...
Exacto, Félix García, dijiste algo importante. Por eso es que nosotros tenemos que empezar a invertir en el ejército. Llevamos un montón de tiempo que no le estamos metiendo chavo a los soldados. Y Rusia y China se están armando. Nosotros tenemos que volver a ponernos poderosos otra vez.
It was 40 degrees below zero. But because I won in the largest number ever, I love that temperature now. I love it. I think it's... But we're driving over, and there were so many cars pulled over. I said to Secret Service, what's the problem? Electric vehicle, sir. In other words, they don't work in the cold and they don't go far.
Oh, yo había visto eso, es verdad. Yo vi que los carros eléctricos cuando está bien frío dejan de funcionar. Los cargadores y los carros. Entonces Biden quería empujar una ley que todo el mundo tuviera carros eléctricos para el 2030, un ejemplo. Todavía esa tecnología no está para eso. Esos carros en el frío no funcionan muy bien.
Other than that, I think they're wonderful. And they're very expensive. And what we're going to do is you're going to have an electric vehicle if you want it. And it's good for short trips like to the candy store and back. Let's go to California, darling, and let's take a trip out to see Gavin Newsom and the job he's doing. Let's go to see how not to run a state. I will pass the Trump Reciprocal Trade Act. Very simple. If China or any other country makes us pay a 100 or 200% tariff, we will make them pay a reciprocal tariff of 100 or 200%.
Esa es la actitud. Ah, China nos va a cobrar esto. Le vamos a cobrar para atrás lo otro. Vamos a empezar a negociar. Vente, siéntate en la mesa. Así es que se hace.
And if we do that, we will bring back jobs to our country. We will get rid of a large portion of our deficits. It'll be a beautiful thing. It'll be a beautiful thing. I saved the steel industry, although they let it go. How about U.S. steel being bought by Japan? Isn't that wonderful? Can you imagine that? I wouldn't let that deal happen. And as tariffs on foreign countries go up, taxes on American workers and families will come down very
Exactamente, Félix García. Están invirtiéndolo, ellos están poniendo sólidos. Tenemos que hacer lo mismo nosotros.
And take our assets and take our jobs. They have to pay for it. Let them pay 15%. Let them pay 15%. And you know what? It's a high number, but it's not high enough to change the world. It's not high enough. They'll still do business. But what they're going to do is, in order not to pay it, they'll build their plant in the United States, which is even better. And that's what China does, and that's what other... China...
Oye, eso es otra cosa. ¿Cuándo usted había visto un presidente decirte en un mensaje, no, le vamos a cobrar 1% más a fulano, Mengano tiene que pagar lo otro, vamos a cobrarle a todo el mundo y el que es, si no aquí? ¿Cuándo tú has visto un presidente hablarte así? Y un gobernador boricua, ¿cuándo tú has visto a alguien que te habla así? No, óyeme, no hay. Lo único que te voy a decir es algo, que no te olvides de lo siguiente, papá.
Estás viendo Le Cine de Podcast.
Óyeme, estamos en Le Cine de Podcast. Y como digo, Trump te dice las cosas de frente y te dice, no, a China le vamos a poner este impuesto, a Rusia aquello, lo otro para aquí, lo otro para allá. Y te habla claro, a que necesitamos políticos que nos digan la verdad.
China doesn't want us sending cars over there. They put a 75% tax on. They put much more than that. They want us to go over and build a plant over there, and this way you don't have to. We're going to do the same thing, and we were ready to do it until COVID came in. We had the greatest 3 years. We were ready to do it, but then we had to do that. We had a figure. We made a trade deal with
No,
China.
yo
The
quiero
best
que
deal
gane
probably
un americano como Bukele y Milei.
$1 billion worth of farm products and things. And unfortunately, I don't even talk about it because when COVID came in, it was so bad what happened to the world. $60 trillion, millions and millions of people dead. That was a terrible time. And we did a great job, but we never got the credit on that one. We should
Mira,
have
dímelo, Emilio, está pasando, saludito.
for foreign policy. Look at North Korea. North Korea was ready to
Privilegio,
go to war.
papi.
A big nuclear power. And we were great. I got along with them great. I get along with everybody good. They know you can't play games with me. Don't play games. We will restore law and order to our country. I will direct a completely
Estamos aquí, eso es duro, duro.
investigate every radical, out-of-control prosecutor in America for their illegal, racist, and reverse enforcement of the law. This week, Joe Biden once again declared his
Mira, dímelo a Martín Block, saludito.
their qualified immunity. You know what that is? No, can you imagine?
El cambio va, Martín, el cambio va.
By passing a radical anti-police bill through Congress. That's the exact opposite of what they can solve our crime problem. We have to let them do their job. We have to give them great respect, let them do their job. They're very good. The sheriffs are here. They're all over the place. They all endorse me. By contrast, I am going to indemnify all police officers and law enforcement officials throughout the United States to protect them from being destroyed by the radical left for taking strong action on crime. Right?
Mira lo que dijo ahí.
We're going to rebuild.
Mira lo que dijo ahí. Que va a ayudar a los policías para que no le pase lo que pasó en Nueva York, que si los manifestantes y los inmigrantes le dan y el policía no puede hacer nada. No, él va a hacer leyes para que los policías puedan poner orden en la calle, como se supone que esté. Muy bien.
Our cities into beacons of hope, safety, and beauty better than they've ever been before. We're going to reinvest in our cities. They're run by all Democrats. They're all run by Democrats, and they're run badly. We're going to deal with the Democrats, but they've destroyed our top 25 cities run by Democrats. They've destroyed those cities. San Francisco, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, San Francisco was like the greatest city in the country. Now it's horrible what they've done to it.
Eso es verdad.
Los
Eso es
Angeles,
verdad.
Chicago, New York, and then you have Oakland, and you have the other ones that have had long-term problems. But they're all run by Democrats, and they have been for many, many decades. We'll work with them. We're going to rebuild our cities, and we will also take over the horribly run capital of our nation in Washington, D.C., and clean it up, renovate it, and rebuild our capital city, get rid of the slum so that it is no longer a nightmare of murder and crime, but rather it will become the most beautiful capital anywhere in the world. What do you think these leaders come in when they come in to see the president and they ride over a road that's full of potholes and garbage? And the medians, you know, those metal medians at garbage that you put them up 2 days later. I think the sun melts them or something. They expand and contract. They're laying all over the ground. But you look at all the filth and you look at the graffiti on beautiful marble walls. And
Sí, pero los impuestos hay que pagarlos porque si no, el dinero se convierte en papel vacío.
from Virginia, you want to take a trip through Washington, you end up getting shot, killed, or something. And it's a shame. We're going to be very strong. We're going to take over Washington, D.C. We're going to run it properly. We're going to get rid of the slums. We're going to open up our parks. We're going to have to get rid of the tent cities and the tents all over the place. You know, when I was president, when I'd drive by,
Exactamente,
if I saw
Radamé.
2 tents starting to form, I would send Secret Service and all of the other people immediately over there, get rid of those tents. Because you could do it easily when you had 3 or 4. But then you'll have 10, then you'll have 20. All of a sudden you'll have 500 tents and it becomes a big deal. On day 1, I will sign a new executive order to cut federal funding for any school pushing critical race theory, transgender insanity, and other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content onto our children.
Solamente por eso tienes que darle el voto. Va a quitar todo lo de transgender, transgénero, crítica race theory. Va a quitar toda esa mierda que tiene ahora mismo el país patas para arriba. Usted ve todos los disparateros de izquierda que hay con los pelos de colores diciendo que los hombres son mujeres. Eso es lo que tiene a todo dañado. Y Trump lo dijo de frente que lo va a quitar, igual que lo está quitando Milei en Argentina. Amén. Eso es, por eso nada más merece el voto. Eso es, olvídate de todo lo demás. Eso nada más, los niños son más importantes que todo el mundo. Eso nada más, que va a quitar las cosas feministas de las escuelas. Muy bien. Solo por eso se merece el voto. Y todo lo demás que va a hacer, mejor todavía. Es más, vamos a ver, dime una cosa que Biden prometió que hizo. No frisé, me frisé. Nada. Seguimos, muy bien.
And I will not give one penny to any school that has a vaccine mandate or a mask mandate. I will keep men out of women's sports. 100%.
Van a sacar a los
And I
trans.
will fully uphold the Second Amendment, our Second Amendment. And I did. I upheld it.
Saludos, M. Cruz.
And I will tell you, it's under siege. It's under siege, but I held it up 100%, held it up. And we need our Second Amendment. We will protect it always. We will also protect innocent life, and we will restore free speech.
Libertad de expresión. Para ahí, vamos por parte, que está la mejor parte del discurso. Mira todos los puntos que ha dicho. Acaba de decir que va a apoyar la libertad de expresión, que usted y yo nos podemos expresar sin importar lo que le diga ningún político. Va a eliminar los géneros y los gender studies en las escuelas. Va a prohibir a los hombres compitan en el deporte de mujeres. Porque tú sabes qué. Si tú dejas que un hombre trans disfrazado de mujer compita en un deporte de mujer, a ti no te importan las mujeres. Es una competencia entre ellas para saber cuál es la mejor. ¿Por qué tiene que haber un hombre en el medio? Él los va a quitar. Por eso nada más merece el voto. Vamos a ver qué dice el chat. ¡Estamos activos! Mira, Emilio Flores, que se atreve a entrar un pájaro con mi hija en el baño. Papi, pues, pero ahora mismo pueden. Hay que hacer leyes para que no entren al baño con tu hija ahí. Exacto, Biden lo único que prometió es que se iba a caer y lo ha hecho varias veces. Hay que merece un aplauso. Mi gente, Trump les está diciendo bien sencillo. Le vamos a cobrar a China. Mira, dímelo, duro. Le vamos a cobrar a China. Dice, se acabó el abuso, patrón. Así mismo, papá. La libertad de expresión. Mira, Trump lo dijo claro. Le vamos a meter impuestos a China. Si quiere, si va a traer productos para tampoco ser muy listo ellos. Vamos a eliminar el gender study, critical race. Vamos a los hombres trans, no van a estar contra las mujeres. Va a cerrar la frontera. Va a encargarse de traer dinero. ¿Qué más? ¿Qué más? ¿Qué más? ¿Qué más necesitamos que haga un presidente? ¿Qué más necesitamos que haga un presidente? Que nos trate bien y que nos diga permiso y mi amor. Olvídate de eso, que nos dé resultado, que haga lo que está diciendo. Eso es todo lo que queremos.
Will be one day voting with paper ballots and voter ID.
Se acabaron los unicornios, Meme Cruz.
Until then, Republicans must win. We have to win to get it done. And we want a landslide that is too big to rig. Too big to rig. That's what we need. Because they're going to be cheating and they're cheaters and we're going to be watching them and we're going to prosecute. If we get in, we're going to catch them and we're going to do things that were never done before.
Exactamente, Sandra Jualve.
Took the 10 worst presidents, remember, there's never been anything like this. You could take, it started off, I used to use this expression all the time. It started off with 5. Then I said, wow, take the 5 worst, it's not close. Then I said, make it 10. And still I could make it more. There's never been destruction like this done to our country before. Never. It's never happened. So if you want to save America, then go vote. Remember, the primary is Tuesday, March 5th. 3 days. And thank you, Missouri, and thank you, Michigan.
Se
And we have Idaho.
acabaron. Mira,
You know, we have Idaho coming in tonight.
tú sabes, se acabaron hay unos libros que dice, Pepito se sentía extraño a los niños de 10 años. De repente, su amigo le bajó el pantalón. Juntos descubrieron que había un amor más allá de los libros. Esos son los libros que quiere sacar de la escuela. Unas paterías increíbles.
Tonight we hear the same kind of a thing, like 100. We're going to get 100%. You know, Biden always calls Idaho. He called it two things: Iran. That's that.
Así mismo es Reyes. Trump,
And
Bukele,
he calls
Milei.
it, right? He called it Iran. When I go to Iran, no, he meant Idaho, where they grow the potatoes. He called it Iowa once. I can understand.
Bueno,
that.
yo estoy sufriendo ahora, viendo las escuelas como están, los niños como están, las leyes como están, la frontera como está. Yo estoy sufriendo ahora. Todo lo que arregle eso va a venir bien.
Energy that we're going to spend because we want to fire crooked Joe Biden. We have to get him out. We have to get him out. He's a horror. So in conclusion, there's a lot of people in this room. You go back to the corners. You'll go back, and the press tomorrow will say, in a room where the crowd was okay. Okay, the crowd was okay. Thousands of people outside, the crowd
Él
was
va a
okay.
llegar, William, él va a llegar, tú verás. Esto va a ser épico, histórico del tribunal a la presidencia.
An honest press.
Exactamente, me cruza. Acabaron los fondos para los trans y para las campañas de changuería,
Cameras that
literal.
show the room. Look at the corner, packed all the way back to the
Óyeme,
room.
mi gente. Óyeme, esto fue Mr. Trump en Virginia explicándonos lo que hará si gana. Se acabó las leyes de género, los trans. Fíjate de eso, los niños con los niños y las niñas con las niñas. Vamos a guardar la integridad de nuestros niños y enseñarles valores. Óyeme, esto es Lecín de Podcast. Recuerda que estamos todos los días en vivo de lunes a viernes y a veces los sábados en la noche como hoy. Suscríbete, comenta y dale siempre a la campanita. Dale a la campanita, a la bolita, dale a todo. Pero dale, mi gente, que descanse. Los aprecio un montón. Haz el bien. Y no mires a quién. Zumba.
Gracias por sintonizar a Lecine de Podcast. Suscríbete, comenta y riega la voz. Lecine de Podcast. Gracias por sintonizar a Lecine de Podcast. Suscríbete, comenta y riega la voz. Lecine de